In realms far removed from warmth and cheer, 7 figures of considerable ambition held sway. These were not kings of any earthly sort, you understand. Their kingdoms were built of shadow and illusion, their power derived from the quiet corrosion of the human heart. Each prince, as they liked to be called, had carved out a domain perfectly suited to his peculiar talent for mischief. They were masters of the subtle suggestion, the enticing whisper that led souls away from simpler, brighter paths. Their collective aim was a grand tapestry of human unhappiness, woven thread by thread through the vices they so diligently promoted among mankind. It was a rather dismal enterprise, all things considered. First among these was Lucifer, a creature of immense yet terribly misplaced pride. His abode, they say, was a grand castle constructed entirely of mirrors. He delighted in these reflective surfaces, for they encouraged everyone, himself included, to see only their own image. He would whisper to people how very special, how uniquely gifted, how undeniably superior they were. This, of course, made them feel quite puffed up. It also made them rather difficult to be around. Friendships frayed and arguments blossomed, all because everyone believed they were the most important. A simple trick, really, but one that sowed discord with remarkable efficiency in the little worlds below. Then there was Leviathan, the Prince of Envy, dwelling deep within a gloomy forest. In his domain, the night was perpetual, and the trees dripped with a cold, constant dew. Leviathan's particular skill was to make people look at what others possessed. He would point out a neighbor's finer house, a friend's greater success, or even a stranger's fleeting happiness. This bred a gnawing discontent, a sour sadness in the heart. People began to covet, to desire what was not theirs. Sometimes this envy festered into resentment and then into actions like theft or slander, all because they could not bear to see another's good fortune. It was a truly joyless existence he offered. Beside these, one found Mammon, the Prince of Greed, a creature obsessed with accumulation. His preferred residence was an immense underground vault, overflowing with gold, jewels, and all manner of earthly treasures. Mammon loved the gleam of gold, the weight of coins in his hand. He taught people to love these things too, perhaps even more than they loved each other. He whispered that happiness could be bought, that security lay in possessions. So people toiled endlessly, hoarding their wealth, their hearts growing as cold and hard as the treasures they amassed. They forgot the simple joy of sharing, the warmth of generosity, lost in their lonely pursuit of more. Satan, the Prince of Wrath, was another of this grim fraternity. His fortress, it is said, was perpetually besieged by fire and thunder. This constant turmoil perfectly reflected his own temperament. He was a being of short fuse and explosive anger. He would teach people to react with fury to the smallest slight, the most trivial inconvenience. A spilled drink, a misunderstood word, these became pretexts for bitter quarrels and simmering resentment. He fanned the flames of annoyance into outright hatred, turning homes into battlegrounds and nations against each other. Peace was his sworn enemy, and he worked tirelessly to banish it from human hearts and lands. Deep in a dim, excessively cozy cave, one might find Belphegor, the Prince of Sloth. He was a master of procrastination and an advocate for eternal rest, though not the peaceful kind. Belphegor's whispers were not loud or demanding, but rather soft and soporific. He made simple tasks seem overwhelmingly difficult, and important duties appear utterly postponable. Later, he would suggest, "Tomorrow will be better." And so, chores went undone, homework was forgotten, and ambitions slowly withered away. People found themselves adrift in a sea of unfulfilled intentions, their potential untapped, their days unproductive, all thanks to his lazy, lulling influence. Beelzebub, often called the Prince of Gluttony, presided over a palace constructed entirely of candies and sweets, an enticing facade, but one that hid a deep ugliness. He encouraged an insatiable desire for more. More food, more drink, more indulgence than any person truly needed. He whispered that satisfaction lay in constant consumption, in never feeling hunger or want. This led not to lasting pleasure but to ill health, to wastefulness, and to a dulling of the senses. People forgot the simple joy of a modest meal, the satisfaction of self-control, their bodies and spirits burdened by excess. It was a sticky, cloying trap he set. Finally, there was Asmodeus, the Prince of Lust, who operated amidst cloying perfumes and dangerously tempting whispers. His domain was one of fleeting, superficial desires, of promises that never quite delivered true happiness. He encouraged people to chase after every passing fancy, every shallow attraction, without a thought for the consequences or the feelings of others. This pursuit often led to broken hearts, damaged trust, and friendships torn asunder. He painted selfishness as freedom, and impulsive desire as true passion. The paths he illuminated with his false lights invariably led to regret and a deep, aching emptiness. These seven together wove a dark net around humanity. But into this world, so cleverly shadowed by these seven influences, a new light began to shine. It was not a harsh, judgmental glare, but a warm, inviting radiance. This light emanated from a heavenly Savior, Jesus Christ, who brought a message utterly alien to the princes and their dark designs. His coming was like the dawn after a long, oppressive night. He spoke not of power or possessions, not of self-aggrandizement or fleeting pleasures. Instead, his words were of love, a profound and selfless love that sought the good of others above all else. This message was a direct challenge to the very foundations of the prince's shadowy kingdoms. The Savior taught about kindness, a simple yet revolutionary concept in a world accustomed to envy and wrath. He showed people how to be gentle with one another, to forgive easily, to offer help without expecting reward. He spoke of patience, urging people to bear with one another's flaws, to respond to anger with calm, to persevere in doing good even when it seemed difficult. These teachings were like fresh water to thirsty souls, parched by the bitter offerings of the princes. He did not just speak these words, he lived them, providing a perfect example of how to walk in this new, brighter way. Furthermore, Jesus Christ championed generosity, not the hoarding promoted by mammon. He taught that true richness lay not in what one kept, but in what one gave away. He encouraged sharing not just material goods, but also time, compassion, and understanding. This was a direct affront to the selfish hoarding that mammon encouraged. He also taught humility, the very opposite of Lucifer's proud exhortations. He showed that true greatness was found in service, in putting others first, in acknowledging one's own need for grace. This was a difficult lesson for those accustomed to the mirrors of Lucifer's castle, but a liberating one for those who embraced it. His teachings, therefore, began to unravel the intricate deceptions of the seven princes. Where Lucifer built walls of pride, Jesus offered the open arms of humility. Where Leviathan sowed envy, Jesus planted seeds of contentment and goodwill. Against Satan's fire of wrath, he presented the cooling balm of patience and forgiveness. Mammon's cold gold was contrasted with the warm hearth of generosity. Belphegor's lethargy was dispelled by the purposeful energy of service. Beelzebub's excesses were countered by the quiet joy of moderation and thankfulness. Asmodeus's fleeting desires paled before the promise of enduring, faithful love. The light was indeed dawning. As people listened to the Savior's words and witnessed his compassionate life, a remarkable change began. It was as if scales fell from their eyes. They started to see the prince's tricks for what they were, empty promises leading only to misery. The grand castle of mirrors began to seem less appealing, its reflections hollow. The gloomy forest of envy lost its power to sadden when hearts learned to rejoice in another's happiness. The fiery fortress of wrath cooled as people discovered the strength in a soft answer. The allure of Mammon's hoarded gold faded when they experienced the greater joy of giving. The transformation was visible in their daily lives. Those who had been quick to anger learned to breathe deeply and seek peace. Individuals who once felt consumed by the desire for what others had, now found contentment in their own blessings and celebrated the good fortune of their neighbors. Those who had been driven by an insatiable need for more food, more possessions, more fleeting pleasures, discovered the quiet satisfaction of enough, of moderation, and of caring for their own well-being and that of others. The lazy found purpose in their days, and the lustful sought deeper, more meaningful connections. With these changes, the very influence of the seven princes began to weaken, to wane. Their shadowy realms seemed less imposing, their whispers less persuasive. Lucifer's mirrors cracked, Leviathan's forest thinned, and Satan's fires dwindled. Mammon's vaults felt cold and empty, Belphegor's cave less inviting, Beelzebub's palace of sweets lost its charm, and Asmodeus's perfumes no longer intoxicated. The light of the Savior's love was dispelling the darkness, not with force, but with a gentle, pervasive grace that transformed hearts from within. Their power, you see, was always dependent on human willingness to listen to their lies. Ultimately, Jesus filled people's hearts with a pure and selfless love. This love freed them from their old destructive habits. They found a new profound happiness, not in selfishness or vice, but in loving God and in caring for one another. The kingdom of the Savior was built in these transformed hearts, a kingdom of light, peace, and enduring joy. The reign of the seven princes, though perhaps not entirely extinguished from the world's darker corners, lost its iron grip on those who chose to walk in the Savior's light, finding their delight in his ways and in the service of his kingdom.